What if the greatest war films of the 1950s are not the ones everyone keeps naming? These 15 movies did not always have huge budgets or heroic speeches. What they had was tension, moral conflict, and scenes that still feel painfully real. Number 1 may be the most forgotten masterpiece of them all, still waiting today. Number 15, Fixed Bayonets, 1951. Samuel Fuller did not treat infantry combat like a clean adventure. In Fixed Bayonets, 48 American soldiers are ordered to remain behind in freezing Korea, while a much larger force quietly retreats. Their job is not to win a glorious battle. They must create enough noise, movement, and confusion to make the enemy believe an entire division is still holding the line. The story follows Corporal Deno, a capable soldier who is terrified of command. Every time a superior falls out of action, responsibility moves closer to him. That simple idea gives the movie its real tension. Deno is not afraid of doing his duty. He is afraid that one wrong order could decide the fate of everyone around him. The film's most famous sequence takes place in a minefield. A trapped soldier cannot move without risking disaster, and the rescue becomes a slow test of nerve rather than a loud action scene. Fuller stretches each step, each warning, and each pause until the frozen ground feels alive. Another chilling moment reveals the effects of frostbite with almost no dramatic music or decoration. What keeps the movie powerful today is its honesty about leadership. Courage is not shown as confidence. It is shown as moving forward while doubt is still inside you. The snowy hill, the cramped cave, and the exhausted faces make this small production feel larger than many expensive war epics. Fixed Bayonets is not about becoming fearless. It is about accepting responsibility when fear refuses to leave. Number 14, The Steel Helmet, 1951. The Steel Helmet begins with an image that tells you exactly what kind of movie this will be. A steel helmet moves through the brush, and beneath it is Sergeant Zack, a hard, bitter survivor who has escaped after being left among fallen soldiers. So he is found by a young Korean boy, whom he calls Short Round, and the two move through an unsafe landscape. They soon join a mixed American patrol and take shelter in an abandoned Buddhist temple. Instead of turning that location into a simple fortress, director Samuel Fuller uses it like a pressure cooker. The soldiers argue about race, loyalty, fear, and what America claims to represent. An enemy prisoner attacks those divisions, trying to convince the men that their country does not treat them equally. One of the film's most remembered scenes is the interrogation inside the temple. The prisoner does not need a weapon to create danger. He uses words, personal history, and uncomfortable truths. The scene was unusually direct for an early Korean War film. The action eventually closes around the temple, but the emotional center remains Zack's growing bond with the boy. When that bond is broken, Zack's tough shell finally cracks. Fuller refuses to make him a shining hero. He is angry, damaged, and often unpleasant, yet still capable of care. Made on a tiny budget, the steel helmet feels rough because it wants to feel rough. Its blunt view of combat, racism, and survival helped make it one of the first important films about the Korean War, even though many viewers today have never heard of it. Number 13, Decision Before Dawn, 1951. Decision Before Dawn asks a dangerous question for a film made only a few years after the Second World War. Could a German soldier turn against his own military for moral reasons, and could the Allies trust him? The answer is explored through Corporal Karl Maurer, nicknamed Happy, a prisoner who agrees to return to Germany and collect intelligence. American officers train German prisoners as line crossers, but nobody is comfortable with the plan. Some may be sincere, others may be escaping. Maurer volunteers after seeing how blindly the war is being continued, even when defeat is near. He believes helping the Allies could shorten the suffering of his country. Once he parachutes back into Germany, the movie becomes a tense spy story. Maurer must travel through damaged towns, military offices, railway stations, and crowded streets while pretending he still belongs. Every uniform becomes a threat. Every casual question could expose him. One of the strongest sequences comes when officials inspect papers and identities during his journey. Nothing explosive happens at first. The suspense comes from waiting, watching faces, and wondering whether one small detail has been missed. Director Anatol Litvak filmed in real German locations, and the ruined buildings give the story a physical sadness that studio sets could not easily copy. Oskar Werner plays Maurer with nervous intelligence rather than easy heroism. He is trapped between two sides and fully accepted by neither. That is why Decision Before Dawn still feels modern. It does not divide every person into simple categories. It shows a country collapsing, individuals making impossible choices, and trust becoming more valuable than any weapon. Number 12. The Desert Rats, 1953. The Desert Rats brings the Siege of Tobruk to the screen through Captain Tammy McRoberts, a tough British officer ordered to shape Australian soldiers into a defensive force. The port is surrounded, supplies are limited, and the enemy expects it to fall quickly. Instead, the defenders remain in place for months. Richard Burton plays McRoberts without turning him into a friendly commander. He is demanding, impatient, and willing to push exhausted men because he knows the position cannot survive without discipline. Among the soldiers is Tom Bartlett, McRoberts' former schoolteacher, now struggling with fear and drink. Their reversed relationship gives the film an emotional edge. The former student must now command his old teacher. The battle scenes focus on raids, damaged defenses, and the strain of waiting under constant pressure. One memorable sequence sends the soldiers across the desert at night to strike enemy positions. Darkness hides them, but also hides mines, wire, and patrols. The scene works because the men never seem in control. The film's most unusual encounter happens when McRoberts meets Field Marshal Rommel in a medical tent. James Mason returns to the role, but the moment is not played like a meeting of legends. It is brief, tense, and strangely respectful. Each man understands the other's duty without pretending the war is noble. The Desert Rats may look like a traditional studio war film, yet its best moments are about endurance rather than victory. Tobruk becomes a test of how long ordinary soldiers can continue when the larger situation offers little comfort. Burton's controlled performance keeps the film grounded and makes the final relief feel earned. Number 11. The Cruel Sea, 1953. The Cruel Sea is not interested in making naval warfare look beautiful. It follows Lieutenant Commander Erickson and the crew of the Compass Rose, a small British escort ship protecting Atlantic convoys from submarines. At first, many crew members are inexperienced. They learn through storms, mechanical trouble, fear, and repeated loss. The movie covers years rather than one mission, allowing the men to change slowly. Officers become harder. Young sailors become tired veterans. The sea remains cold and uncaring, whether the crew succeeds or fails. Jack Hawkins gives Erickson quiet authority, but he also shows the private cost of making decisions that cannot be taken back. The film's most famous scene comes during a submarine hunt. Survivors are visible in the water, but Erickson believes the enemy vessel is hiding beneath them. He must choose between stopping the attack or dropping depth charges. The sequence is painful because the danger is not theoretical. The men on the bridge can see who may be harmed, and Erickson gives the order anyway. That moment explains the title. The sea is cruel, but war forces people to become cruel as well. The film never turns Erickson into a monster. It shows why he acts, then makes him live with the weight. The model work and naval action remain effective, but the real strength is the routine. Wet clothes, sleepless watches, silent meals, and names disappearing from the crew list. The Cruel Sea understands that war is often not one dramatic charge. It is a long process of pressure that changes people until even survival feels like a kind of defeat. Number 10. The Bridges at Toko-Ri, 1954. The Bridges at Toko-Ri begins as an aviation drama, but slowly reveals itself as a film about duty without certainty. William Holden plays Harry Brubaker, a naval reserve pilot called back into service during the Korean War. He has a family and civilian life waiting, None of that changes the order, sending him toward heavily defended bridges, deep in enemy territory. The movie shows carrier operations, rescue crews, briefings, and the difficult rhythm of flight missions. Brubaker is not eager for glory. He questions why he must risk everything in a conflict that feels distant and unclear. Admiral Tarrant understands his anger, but cannot offer a comforting answer. Grace Kelly appears as Brubaker's wife, Nancy, who visits him with their children. Their scenes give the coming mission a human cost before the planes even leave the deck. Brubaker is not only a pilot, he is a man trying to act normal while knowing what may happen next. The famous bridge attack remains impressive because it is built around preparation and exposure. The jets must enter a narrow valley, face heavy fire, and hit targets that seem almost impossible to reach. Later, the movie shifts into a desperate ground rescue involving Brubaker and helicopter pilot Mike Forney. The glamour of flight disappears, leaving mud, cold, and isolation. The ending refuses easy comfort. Admiral Tarrant is left asking what kind of country produces men willing to carry out such missions. The question is not used as a loud patriotic statement. It sounds confused and sad. That final tone is why The Bridges at WWII still stands apart from more predictable aviation films. Number 9. The Cockleshell Heroes, 1955. The Cockleshell Heroes is based loosely on Operation Frankton, the British raid in which commandos entered the protected Bordeaux harbor by canoe. The idea sounds almost impossible. A tiny group of men paddling through enemy waters, attaching mines to ships, and then trying to escape across occupied territory. Jose Ferrer plays Major Stringer, the officer who develops the plan and trains the volunteers. Trevor Howard plays Captain Thompson, an experienced military man who doubts Stringer's methods. Their conflict drives the film's first half. Stringer believes unusual missions require unusual thinking. Thompson believes discipline and experience cannot be replaced by clever ideas. The training scenes are more than filler. Men are tested by cold water, darkness, exhaustion, and silence. The mission depends on patience rather than heavy firepower. One careless sound could expose everyone. The most memorable sequence follows the canoes as they move toward the harbor at night. Searchlights sweep the water. Patrols pass nearby. The commandos must paddle without creating a visible wake. When they finally reach the ships and attach the explosives, the scene remains quiet. The tension comes from their closeness to discovery. Later explosions provide the expected payoff, but the film does not hide the cost of the operation. Escape is as dangerous as entry, and not every man has the same chance of returning. The Cockleshell Heroes sometimes uses the style of a traditional adventure, yet the small scale makes it gripping. These men are not protected by tanks, aircraft, or a large unit. They have fragile boats, darkness, and trust. That simplicity gives the film a physical suspense many modern productions struggle to create. Number 8. The Man Who Never Was, 1956. The Man Who Never Was proves a war film can thrill without showing a major battle. Its subject is Operation Mincemeat, the British deception plan designed to mislead German leaders about the Allied invasion of southern Europe. Its central agent is a dead man given an invented identity. Clifton Webb plays Lieutenant Commander Ewan Montague, who helps create Major William Martin. The planners build his life through papers, receipts, keys, photographs, and a love letter. Secret documents are placed on the body, released from a submarine near Spain. They hope the papers reach German intelligence and look genuine. The movie makes paperwork suspenseful. Every detail matters because one mistake could expose the plan. The most famous scene belongs to Lucy, whose real fiancé has recently fallen. A German agent questions her about the fictional Major Martin and asks whether he truly exists. Lucy answers from genuine grief, and her emotion makes the invented romance believable. That scene works because deception and truth suddenly become the same thing. She is lying about one man while mourning another. The agent sees pain and assumes it proves the story. Ronald Neame keeps the film moving like a quiet espionage thriller.
That address is genuine. If so, what happened?
We pick him up.
The release of the body into the sea is handled with seriousness rather than spectacle, while the later investigation creates tension from conversations, phone calls, and small inconsistencies. The Man Who Never Was remains incredible because it understands that wars are shaped not only by armies, but by stories. In this case, the carefully designed life of a person who never existed may help protect thousands of people who do. Number 7. Attack, 1956. Attack is one of the angriest American war films of its decade. The enemy is present, but the real conflict is inside the American command structure. Jack Palance plays Lieutenant Joe Costa, a frontline officer who has lost men because Captain Erskine Cooney repeatedly freezes when support is needed. Cooney holds command partly because of family influence. Above him is Lieutenant Colonel Bartlett, a political operator who knows Cooney is unfit but protects him for personal advantage. Costa sees the danger clearly. He warns that another failure will have consequences, but the system continues because truth would damage powerful careers. During a mission in a Belgian town, Costa's men enter buildings while promised support never arrives. The unit becomes isolated as streets, cellars, and ruined rooms become traps. Director Robert Aldrich keeps the camera close, making the battle feel less like a grand campaign and more like men being abandoned one doorway at a time. The most remembered scenes are the confrontations between Costa and Cooney. Palance brings controlled fury, while Eddie Albert makes Cooney frightened, weak, and strangely human. He is dangerous because he cannot act when others depend on him. The film's final movement becomes a struggle over whether truth will be buried to protect the chain of command. Attack refuses the comforting idea that rank always equals courage. It argues that institutions can reward the wrong people and demand silence from the right ones. That message still feels sharp. The movie has no need for large-scale spectacle because its central threat is familiar. A bad leader, protected by a system that values appearance over responsibility. Number 6. Men in War, 1957. Men in War strips combat down to movement, exhaustion, and uncertainty. A platoon led by Lieutenant Benson has become separated from its division during the Korean War. Communications fail, transport is damaged, and the men must reach a distant hill while the enemy remains almost invisible. Benson meets Sergeant Montana, who is driving a colonel suffering from severe shock. Montana cares only about getting the colonel to safety and has little respect for Benson's authority. Robert Ryan plays Benson as disciplined but worn down. Aldo Ray plays Montana as stubborn, physical, and openly hostile. Their conflict concerns two different kinds of responsibility. The journey becomes the story. Soldiers walk through fields, trees, dirt roads, and abandoned spaces where any sound may be a warning. Director Anthony Mann often uses wide shots to show how exposed the men are, then cuts to tight close-ups when fear takes control. One famous sequence involves the platoon crossing dangerous ground while trying to remain completely silent. The absence of music and the careful movement make every step feel risky. The final push is equally strong because the men are already drained before the main fight. Men in War does not offer speeches about the meaning of the conflict. The soldiers barely understand the larger situation. They know only the next position, the next order, and the person beside them. That limited view is the film's power. It presents war from ground level, where maps are incomplete and plans collapse quickly. The result is one of the leanest, most psychologically intense combat films of the 1950s. Number 5. The One That Got Away, 1957. The One That Got Away does something unusual for a British war film. Its central character is Franz von Vera, a captured German pilot determined to escape from British custody and return home. The movie asks viewers to understand his skill, patience, and refusal to accept imprisonment. Hardy Kruger plays von Vera with confidence and charm, but never makes him harmless. He studies guards, routines, fences, railways, and human weaknesses. Each camp becomes a puzzle. When one plan fails, he observes again. The film's most entertaining sequence comes when von Vera reaches a British airfield and pretends to be an Allied pilot. He nearly talks his way into an aircraft, using confidence as a disguise. His story is always one question away from collapse. He does not overpower anyone. He survives by acting as though he belongs. After further attempts, the story moves to Canada. Von Vera escapes from a train and heads toward the frozen St. Lawrence River, hoping to cross into the still neutral United States. The winter landscape creates different suspense. There are no walls, but cold, distance, and time become another prison. Roy Ward Baker directs the film with restraint. There is little triumph and no loud celebration. Even when Von Vera succeeds, the achievement feels lonely. The One That Got Away remains fascinating because it separates determination from morality. A person can be brave, resourceful, and committed while serving the wrong side of history. The movie trusts viewers to hold both ideas at once, which makes it far more intelligent than a simple escape adventure. Number 4. Bitter Victory, 1957. Bitter Victory is a war film built around jealousy, shame, and moral weakness. Richard Burton plays Captain Leith, an intelligent officer chosen for a dangerous commando mission in North Africa. Kurt Jürgens plays Major Brand, the commander. Brand looks stronger, but knows Leith has a past connection with his wife, Jane. The mission requires the group to enter an enemy headquarters, steal important documents, and escape across the desert. Brand commands on paper, but Leith understands the region, language, and people better. That imbalance creates tension before the raid even begins. The key scene comes when Brand faces a moment demanding immediate courage. He hesitates, and Leith acts. The mission may continue, but Brand's authority is damaged, because both men know what happened. The title begins to make sense. Success on paper can still expose personal failure. The return journey is even more important than the raid. The desert strips away appearances and leaves both officers trapped with resentment. Brand becomes increasingly threatened by Leith, not only as a soldier, but as a man. Every order carries a private motive. Nicholas Ray avoids the clean structure of a standard mission movie.
Ammonia, I should have thought of that. Finest medicine chest in the desert's a camel.
The action is less important than the emotional damage moving beneath it. Burton gives Leith a tired intelligence, while Jürgens makes Brand stiff, insecure, and desperate to protect his image. Bitter Victory still feels modern, because it questions what medals and official reports can hide. A mission can be called successful, while leadership fails. A man can receive public honor, while privately knowing someone else carried the burden. The victory is real, but the taste is bitter. Number 3. A Time to Love and a Time to Die, 1958. Douglas Sirk is remembered mainly for colorful melodramas, but A Time to Love and a Time to Die may be his most devastating film. It follows Ernst Graber, a German soldier on the Eastern Front who receives leave and returns home expecting to find his parents and his old life. Instead, he finds a broken city and his home in ruins. Ernst searches hospitals, shelters, offices, and damaged streets for any sign of his parents. He reconnects with Elizabeth, daughter of a doctor targeted by the regime. Their relationship grows quickly because time has become uncertain. They never pretend the world is normal. They are trying to create a few normal moments inside a world that is collapsing. One of the film's most memorable sequences surrounds their marriage and brief happiness. Even celebration is interrupted by alarms, destruction, and fear. Sirk uses bright color in a painful way. Flowers and sunlight appear against ruins, making beauty feel temporary rather than comforting. The movie shows different German responses to the regime. Some characters profit from it. Others hide, remain silent, or try to help quietly. Ernst gradually understands that following orders has connected him to a system he can no longer defend. John Gavin plays him with restraint, while Liselott Pulver gives Elizabeth warmth without making her naive. Their romance matters because it is fragile. A Time to Love and a Time to Die is not a story about excusing a soldier. It is about moral awakening, arriving too late to repair everything. The film asks whether love can save a person when history has already destroyed the future around them. Number 2. Ice Cold in Alex. 1958. Ice Cold in Alex turns a simple desert journey into one of the most tense British war films ever made. Captain Anson must drive an ambulance across enemy-controlled North Africa, toward Alexandria. With him are Sergeant Major Pugh, 2 nurses, and a South African officer named Vanderpoel. Anson is not presented as a perfect leader. He is exhausted, emotionally damaged, and dependent on drink. The desert ignores rank and nationality. Heat, mines, broken machinery, and lack of water become greater threats than any visible enemy. The film contains several unforgettable sequences. The ambulance must cross a minefield with almost no room for error. Later, it sinks into dangerous ground. The most famous challenge comes when the group must push and winch the vehicle up a steep slope. Every person strains to move it, and when it begins sliding backward, the moment feels almost unbearable. Suspicion also grows around Vanderpoel. Evidence suggests he is a German agent, yet he repeatedly helps the group survive. The movie turns that discovery into a moral test. The characters must decide whether nationality matters more than the life shared during the journey. Then comes the iconic final scene. In Alexandria, Anson finally receives the cold beer he has imagined across the desert. He watches the glass, lifts it slowly, and drinks. It may be the most satisfying drink ever filmed because the entire journey is inside that moment. Ice Cold in Alex remains incredible because it values survival over victory. The greatest enemy is not one nation. It is the desert, fear, and the temptation to stop trusting one another. Number 1. 10 Seconds to Hell, 1959. 10 Seconds to Hell takes place after the fighting has ended, but it may be the most haunting war film on this list. 6 German veterans return to ruined Berlin to remove unexploded bombs beneath streets and buildings. Peace has arrived, yet the city can still erupt. Jack Palance plays Eric Kortner, a careful, thoughtful man who respects how little separates control from disaster. Jeff Chandler plays Carl Wirtz, who is more confident, competitive, and willing to take chances. The men agree to contribute pay, with the last survivor receiving the money. That turns friendship into a countdown. Every assignment may change the group. The danger does not come from an enemy soldier. It comes from rusted metal, damaged timers, hidden wires, and devices designed years earlier. The strongest scenes focus on bomb disposal itself. A device is uncovered inside a ruined structure. The men study it, clear the area, and work while others wait at a distance.
All right? Sure. The turn point mechanism took the fuse right off.
Robert Aldrich stretches time until the title feels literal. 10 seconds become a lifetime when one movement may be wrong. The film also introduces Margot, a woman trying to build a future in the same broken city. Her presence reminds Kurtner and Wirtz that survival should lead somewhere.
We have more than one candidate.
I agree.
They're probably quite.
Yet neither man knows how to leave danger behind. 10 Seconds to Hell is still incredible because it shows war as unfinished business. The uniforms may be gone, but the habits, ruins, and buried weapons remain. Its final message is brutally simple. History does not stop being dangerous just because people declare it over. Which of these forgotten war movies deserves to be rediscovered first? The 1950s produced far more than clean heroes and easy victories. These films showed fear, weak leadership, divided loyalties, and the long shadow left after combat ended.
I don't know what's left to say.
Some were buried by bigger classics, but their best scenes have lost none of their power. Share the title that surprised you most. And remember, a forgotten film is only forgotten until someone watches it again. Tell us why below, too.